On May 6, 2025, as Russians prepared for the May 9 Victory Day holiday, while state television was still practicing the national anthem and parading troops with 3D models, a surprise gift from Ukraine was unexpectedly sent straight to the Kursk region, not by post, but by UAV and rocket artillery. A surprise attack, no announcement, no warning, not even a letter of permission. Ukraine penetrated directly into Russia's strategic rear, surprising not only the defense forces, but also international observers, dropping their coffee cups on the table. And if you thought Kursk was a quiet place, known only for its cheese and potatoes, hey presto, it's now the hottest name on Google Maps, with searches rising faster than Moscow's monthly salary. So how did Ukraine attack? How did Russia react? And why did this attack scare Kremlin officials so much that they increased security at coffee shops near the border? All of this in today's video. Before we analyze the attack, we need to understand why Kursk. Kursk, a name that sounds a bit like a yogurt brand or a Russian cold soup, but in fact is an extremely sensitive border area located in western Russia, only about 100 kilometers from Kharkiv as the crow flies. This is the area that connects the logistics chain of supplies between central Russia and the battlefields of eastern Ukraine. In other words, if Belgorod is the kitchen, then Kursk is the rice pipeline. And of course, Ukraine cannot help but notice when the Russian kitchen continuously cooks soup and brings it to the front line like a buffet. The terrain of Kursk consists of forests, plains, and low hills, very suitable for organizing summer picnics, if not for the artillery, UAVs, and missiles flying overhead. With more than 1 million people, this area was once peaceful, now only has water reserves, because most of the people have been evacuated after 2 years of war threatening to come close. Since the beginning of 2023, the Kursk region has been attacked by small-scale attacks, UAVs, special forces sneaking across the border to play peekaboo with Russian checkpoints. However, the attack on May 6 was of a much larger scale and audacity. It was no longer a teasing the neighbors game, but a direct punch to the face of Russia's military strategy in the north. If the attack on Kursk is successful, Ukraine will cut off one of the 3 main logistics lines feeding Russian troops in Kharkiv and Luhansk. It's like turning off the power switch in a restaurant kitchen. The boiling pot of porridge will have to stop because of the power outage. In short, Kursk is not just a peaceful province in name. It is the link between the front, the rear, and the entire face of the Russian army. And on May 6, Ukraine not only knocked on the door of this region, but also kicked it straight into the living room. On the morning of May 6, 2025, when many Russian units were still sleeping soundly, believing that the north was still fine, a sudden rain of UAVs rained down on the Kursk region. At least 40 unmanned vehicles, including suicide UAVs, reconnaissance aircraft, and even long-range rocket artillery, simultaneously fired on logistics positions, ammunition depots, radars, and several field barracks. It was a coordinated, organized, and very sober attack, in the style of hit fast, shorten, avoid zoom. According to data from the Institute for the Study of War, 1SW, the attack was carried out from multiple directions, not only by cross-border UAVs, but also by HIMARS complexes, attacking from a distance, creating a front-wide disturbance effect. The result? At least 3 logistics depots, 1 radar station, and a Panzer-Sohn air defense complex were destroyed or temporarily disabled. In an unverified but viral video, a Russian officer is seen shouting into a radio, "How did it fly that it didn't catch radar?" To which he is told, "Because it flew lower than the price of Russian oil under sanctions." Immediately after the attack, Russian TV channels simultaneously announced air defenses successfully intercepted most of the attack, a mantra that has become as familiar as the schedule of election stealers on Russian TV. But Ukraine has not only attacked with weapons, it has also engaged in psychological warfare. Some UAVs are said to have loudspeakers, playing Russian rap music mocking the military, causing some units to be confused whether they were being attacked or attending a birthday party. Tactically, the attack directly on the logistics line between Kursk and Belgorod was an extremely risky but wise move. It forced Russia to disperse its defense forces, reducing pressure on the Kharkiv front, where Ukraine was showing signs of a local counterattack. In short, the attack on the morning of May 6 was not just a simple bombing. This was a strategic message. Ukraine is not only defending, but can reach out and strike at the heart of Russian strategy, even if it is Kursk, a land that Moscow considers absolutely safe. But perhaps from now on, in Russia, the concept of absolutely safe should be changed to relatively safe. while not being detected on Ukrainian military TikTok. The response from Russia was swift and confusing. The Russian Defense Ministry immediately convened an emergency meeting, and state television broadcast the news in its familiar deep voice. We have successfully intercepted 37 out of 40 UAVs, with only a few secondary targets slightly affected. The situation is under control. However, Russian netizens were not so easily lulled. Multiple videos from the scene showed large fires in logistics warehouses, military convoys moving away from the area, and several officers running faster than an Iskander missile when the alarm went off. On the military front, Russia's first response was to deploy additional Pantsir and S-300 air defense systems to the Kursk region. At the same time, the Defense Ministry ordered the reinforcement of border defense posts and the withdrawal of artillery from Bryansk to increase firepower. Some OSINT sources said that Russia also sent Il-22 electronic warfare aircraft to the region to prevent UAVs from entering. Meanwhile, the pro-Kremlin media began to change the subject. Instead of talking about Kursk, they switched to reporting on good weather in Sochi, the booming potato market, and a cat in Siberia setting a mountain climbing record, to avoid mentioning the surprise attack. Politically, the attack presented the Kremlin with a dilemma. If it publicly acknowledged the extent of the damage, it would undermine confidence in the military. If it continued to remain silent or deflect, it would make the population nervous and international observers laugh like crazy. Some pro-government bloggers tried to spin the situation. The attack was just a manifestation of Ukraine's desperation. Yes, like when you're desperate, you take a UAV, burn down the enemy's ammunition depot, and then quietly retreat. A very demoralizing tactic. In short, the Russian side responded adequately, from the military to the media, but no side dared to call the incident a tactical defeat. Because here, admitting the damage is like admitting Russia was attacked in its backyard, something no politician wants to bring up on national television, especially right before the May 9 parade. The May 6 attack was not just about inflicting material damage, it was a strategic blow to the heart of Russia's logistical operations. With the Kursk-Belgorod line disrupted, the pressure would shift to alternative routes such as Voronezh and Bryansk, further away, more vulnerable to ambushes, and more fuel-intensive. In terms of timing, Ukraine's attack just before May 9, Russia's victory over Nazism, was a psychological stunt that could not have been more subtle. It was like someone suddenly throwing flour at a wedding, shocking everyone, and forcing the commemorative photo to be retaken from the beginning.
Này lưu ý rằng họ đã được tiếp cận trực tiếp với thông tin về việc ông Zelensky đã gửi cho người đồng cấp Brazil ít nhất 6 lá thư kể từ năm 2023 để yêu cầu gặp mặt, và tất cả đều không được.
Hit you to remember your face. And third, never think of the Russian border as a safe zone again. We have maps, drones, and Wi-Fi. In addition, this is a signal to the West, especially the US and NATO, that Ukraine is still capable of taking the initiative when it has weapons and full intelligence. This could be a psychological preparation for a large aid package that is about to be approved by demonstrating, give us weapons. We will use them more effectively than you use them in parades. The political impact within Russia is also not small. When the people of a border province like Kursk see the war at their doorstep, the question of why are we in Ukraine will quickly change to how can we get out of Ukraine? And that is what worries the Moscow government more than the UAVs, the decline in morale. In short, the attack on May 6 was a warning from Ukraine, not just to Russia, but to the whole world, that it is still capable of surprise, still in control of the psychological battlefield, and still capable of making a parade go on. Air defense alert. After the Kursk attack, the question is, what next? Will Ukraine launch more cross-border attacks? Or is this just a diversion to prepare for a major counteroffensive in Kharkiv, Donetsk, or Zaporizhia? Scenario 1. Ukraine continues to target logistics in Belgorod, Voronezh, creating a drone pincer to cut off the northern supply chain. Scenario 2. This is just a warning strike to force Russia to spread out its air defenses, thereby exposing a gap on the eastern front. Scenario 3. The most cheerful is that after this incident, Ukrainian drones will be awarded medals, delaying Russia's May 9 parade. Consider it a few more days to iron your uniforms. War is not just about battles, it is also about signals. And on May 6, Ukraine sent a clear signal. They are not afraid to expand the battle space. They have the technology, the tactics, and above all, the spirit to counterattack, even if the enemy has a temporary advantage on some fronts. Meanwhile, for Russia, the question is no longer how to attack Kyiv, but how to keep Kursk, Belgorod, and even Moscow safe if the game continues to expand? If you find this video interesting, informative, or simply makes you laugh in the midst of the current events, don't forget to like the video so the algorithm doesn't fall asleep. Like the Panzer Radar, subscribe to the channel so you don't miss the next videos, where the news is told in a serious and less dry way. And remember to share it with your friends, because who knows, they might also need a war news but don't want to get too stressed.